Hello everyone, hope you're all well and thanks very much for all the support with my videos. I'm very grateful. Today I want to speak about the housing disaster in Ireland. Over the weekend we've seen the figures come out for homeless figures from the Department of Housing, where it's over 14,159 people now in emergency accommodation. Of that there's 4,316 children. This is up 14% in 1 year, absolutely astronomical, but again this has been normalised by political policies and by the media also as well. It doesn't include figures of people who are sleeping rough on the streets, and not to mention people in refuges either up and down the country, and also doesn't take regard of the so many people who are euphemistically called couch surfers, well over 300,000 people that are still living in overcrowded facilities or with family members if they're lucky enough to live in such conditions. And also in Dublin there's 10,291 people. Of that, there's 3,233 children, 1,464 families. This is remarkable and it's outrageous to what's happening. And this is all because of government decisions and government policies. It doesn't have to be this way. There's many people who benefit from this because we've seen sky high rents in Ireland. Dublin, the average rents are nearly up to €2,400 per month. It's up 5% year on year. They've over doubled in the last 10 to 12 years. Nationwide, it's just below the €2,000 mark. Deloitte did a report last year, a property index, to say Ireland's the most expensive place to rent per square metre at €32.80 across the European Union. Eurostat did a report where we're more than double the European average in terms of rents, 112% above the European average in rents. So many people are making profits from the misery of many others, and this is all down to political choices, as I said, that had its genesis in the financial crash of 2008. 2009 and the famous bailout that we were saddled with 43% of the banking debt. 1% of the population of the European Union is in Ireland, and 43% of the banking debt, €9,000 for every man, woman and child, was foisted on the people of Ireland. That is devastating austerity, and one of the conditions of the bailout from the European Union, IMF and European Central Bank was to stop building public housing and open our door to vulture funds. So the financial crash never let a good crisis go to waste. Bail out the bankers, bail out the big finance houses, and bail out the international investors and the developers and the vulture funds. Why not? Because we can use public money to subsidise them and prop them up, and as I've said, they never let us see a disaster or any crisis go to waste. You can always profit out the other side. They've seen housing as an investment, as a commodity, as something they can make money out of rather than a social good in society, and this has been perpetuated by the Irish government, and in particular the finance minister back at the time, Michael Noonan, ably abetted by Secretary General of the Department of Finance, was a guy called John Moran. You might remember John Moran recently as now the recently appointed Mayor of Limerick. Not very independent now, is he? One of the orchestrators and architects of the vulture funds coming into Ireland, real estate investment trusts as well. Noonan met with vultures over 100 times, and now many of these funds have turned to property renting over 20, 30 years to cause an absolute misery and havoc in people's lives, all facilitated by government's policies. And not to mention there was people like Enda Kenny who said Ireland was the best little country to do business in. Bill Clinton was waxing on about getting investors to come to Ireland, and a lot of these investors are causing havoc on people's lives. The real estate investment trusts in particular that have paid next to no tax on their rental income. They don't pay any capital gains tax if they buy properties between 2013 and 2014, which a lot did because of the financial crash and NAMA. So they benefited from knockdown prices, and one of the apartment blocks that they benefited from was just the one just behind me here. That one is just further on there. You can see it's well over nearly 300 apartments in there, and the vast majority are owned by a company called Ira's Rate, who have made huge profits, which is all about maximising rates of return and benefiting from the low tax regime. And these are big oligarchs, billionaires, investors that invest in these properties and make an absolute fortune through the sky high rental market. So what's not to love from the Irish political establishment benefiting the super rich and the vulture funds? And these also work to through private equity finance to use funds to lend to developers building apartment blocks in advance. So a lot of the forward purchasing you will see would be based on these big cash-rich investors with deep pockets who are building a lot of properties. You see all around Dublin City. They're all around Dublin. In particular, Irish Rate have a lot of properties around Dublin. They're Ireland's biggest private landlord, well over 4,000 homes. Back in 2014 when they started, they had over 300. They were financed by a Canadian company called Caprate. Now Caprate have sold a lot of their shares in the company because of the high interest rates and the issues around debt financing. But they're making still a huge fortune and they're complaining about it. And now what's happening is there's other vulture funds such as Starwood Investors, everybody remembers them, based in Miami Beach in Florida. And other investors based in London have come in to prop up Irish Rate, and VisionNet, another company based in across the sea in England as well, are making an absolute fortune from the misery of ordinary people who are struggling to afford a home. And since 2016, over €8 billion was spent on these by private rented sector, people investing in them, such as vulture funds. And in 2020, a third of all homes were snapped up by these vulture funds. So nobody can afford a home to buy one of these apartment blocks in terms of buying a home. And as I said, even through the private equity finance as well, they're forward purchasing an awful lot more as well. So they're benefiting both ends of this disaster which ordinary people are facing day by day. And it's also important to note because when they bought these properties back in 2014, well over 200 of these properties, the rents went up between 2014 and 2019, up about 40 to 50%. In the same period, wages only increased by 7%, forcing more people into poverty and more people struggling to afford sky-high rents. And as I said, the government hasn't built public housing, but their answer has been providing subsidies to the super rich and the vulture funds and the landlords through housing assistance payment, which really should be called landlord assistance payment, which is a huge transfer of public wealth from the public purse into private hands. A couple of years ago, it was over 500 million was transferred in housing assistance payment. Companies like Irish Rate benefit immensely from this as well, and it's regular returns they're benefiting from as well. And back in 2014, their CEO, David Ehrlich of Caprate, said he never saw a jurisdiction like it in Ireland make absolutely sky-high, skyrocketing profits as well from the misery of others. And they all benefit immensely. They don't pay capital gains tax either because they bought properties back in the period of 2013, 2014 and knocked down prices through the National Asset Management Agency. And then they don't pay next to no tax on their rental income because they're real estate investment trusts. The only tax they pay is through dividend shareholders' money they make as well, which they're supposed to give out as well. So again, you can see these corporations looking for big bailouts again, who are benefiting no end. And the government bend over backwards to facilitate vulture funds like this. In the last 3-4 years, there's been 24 records in the lobbying register where Irish Rate has come in and met with the Irish political establishment. So this is what we're dealing with in Ireland. We need to put homes for the needs of people. These vulture funds are just parasitic. They offer nothing. It shows how international money moves freely to maximise its profits without any sanction. And the so-called free market does not work because the free market is like big subsidy to the super rich and the vulture funds like this through the housing assistance payment and through the lands and properties and knock down values and then charge extortionate rents. And they're lobbying against any increase or it's against the continuation of the rent pressure zones, which we know aren't working anyway, but they limit big people like these, for instance, to 2% rent increase per annum. But again, they want to get rid of that because they want to maximise their profits, and they're claiming now the perm out because interest rates have gone up. They find it hard to keep their debt levels at proper levels, and they're now looking for some sort of government intervention regarding this. So the best government intervention is to look for cancel the rent pressure zone and let them still charge extortionate rents and force more people into poverty, homelessness and misery. 70% of people forced into homelessness come from the insecure private rental market, and the whole move has been to institutionalise the private rental sector in Ireland, to move them into vulture funds like we have behind me here, like Irish Rate, and absolutely going to be criminal profits being made, all at knockdown values, and who's benefiting and who pays for it? It's ordinary people. So we need to put a society that puts the needs of people first, where a home is a societal and social good. That's a foundation block of a proper society stroke economy and a proper functioning economy and a society which makes it healthier for everybody to live in. So thanks for supporting my video. I really appreciate it. Please press subscribe to my YouTube channel, and thanks for everybody who supports me through buying me a coffee as well. So from Dublin tonight, take care. I'll see you all soon. So long.